Vi kører.
In preparing for this note, intended to precede the exhibition, in considering what to say, where, and even what to wear, I recognize a notion of reception developing in my mind, which seems to influence the definitive formal choices to these considerations. In this attempt to circumvent the site of exhibition by transmitting directly from the artist, my chronology, I detect that my subjective default conception of reception is nonetheless instinctively envisioned in my mind as a crowd at the opening of an exhibition, dressed in formal or even festive attire. Of course, by simply internalizing the complex methodological sensibility immanent to the average artistic work process today, I'm able to identify several potential causes for this idiosyncratic association. The immediate one being that the exhibition, and even more so the opening, is the only setting in which the attention, the gaze, which I traditionally and ambivalently both ignore and anticipate through the production of my artwork, is here concentrated, concretized, and embodied as spectators. Further, I detect that the conditions under which I observe my observers as they observe my absence, the art piece, is within an overruling scheme of assumed successfulness and celebration, a kind of boosterism whose extravagant gestures, even the most unrecognized and, in the original sense of the format, unsuccessful artist-run space to some degree must employ upon ritualizing the externalization of a work process. Given these premises, which so aggressively promotes superficiality, it seems convenient and perhaps even legitimate for me to instinctively associate spectatorship with attire. Naturally, in doing so, a distinct critical sense of relativism immediately confronts me with the fact that the consumption and mediation of contemporary art already unfolds in plentiful, complex, and alternative ways beyond the constraints of this analog site of exhibition, and that my conception is probably more stereotypical than the stereotypical image of the artist. Nonetheless, by entertaining this paradoxical conception of spectatorship reduced to a kind of visuality in itself, I realize that within this surface, in the style of this conventional sense of formalism, lays a kind of sophistication, a transformation in the attire towards an ideal which is simultaneously in line with and yet a negation of the formalizing process within artwork. What constitutes this sophistication of these outfits? At once a continuation of and an emancipation from the conventional business suit, is, beyond the obvious spending power, a sense of accomplishment and successfulness within, capitalistic terms. Expressed through this continuation of, yet emancipation from, sophistication is here, it connotes a kind of triumphant informalization, a demonstration of how leisurous one's successfulness allows one to be, which, in its most extreme form, it tangles work and leisure so seamlessly that it starts to resemble the delicate work structure within artistic chronology. Conversely, however, It is exactly in failing, or simply by pure reluctance to succeed within these criteria, that artistic practice often develops the critical agility and the sophistication by which it executes its artworks. In this light, it seems somewhat paradoxical that the solution I came up with for my initial formalistic concerns, the approach I chose on how to create raw access to my work process, turned out to be exactly this decadent capitalist fantasy of formalism as informal in its most extreme and strategized way, the casual. Through this seemingly casual display no longer causes the traditional binary of work process and exhibition. Spectatorship instead discovers the artist, or me, residing in his natural environment, working, talking, eating, reading, living,